Okay. Good morning. We're about to start this. And okay, we're just about ready. And we hope that I hope I'm not all alone, and I hope, Pierre, you're going to join soon, or I'm just going to have a lot of fun tasting your wines. Okay, well, Pierre's here, but I don't. Pierre, do you not know how to pick this up? Because I sent you an invite. You have to answer the invitation. So let me send you another one here, okay? Okay, Pierre sent you. Yeah. All right. I don't think you did this right, but there we go. Okay. Let's see if we're all here. Live in the garden. I'm waiting for Pierre, but in the morning it's... Here you go. Good morning.
How are you?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. I'm a little bit earlier time than you. So,
yeah, here it's 7 p.m.
Yeah, so, well, it's 10 a.m., so I'm enjoying a little espresso before we get going.
You're right.
Mm. And how are things in Bordeaux today?
Well, today was well, pretty cool day. A little bit cloudy, but still sunny. So better and warmer compared to a few weeks ago. So that's okay.
How did your vines do?
Well, was a tricky weeks some days ago for a lot of wineries in France and Bordeaux and at Croix de Labrie. On the plateau, we've been okay. We light fires on the plateau just one night because we were almost reaching some -1. So to save all on the plateau, we decide to light fires. But down the valley, we turn on the fires almost 3 nights in a row because we went down to -3. At some places, but I know in other places in Bordeaux, they went worse than that. So it's okay. We've been hit by frost, but so far it's a little bit difficult to say a percentage exactly. But for us, that's fine. I have friends, they lost quite more than us, so it's okay.
Right. In your cooler terroir, that's further east, is that where you would have more problems, of course?
Further east, what do you mean by that, Jeff?
Well, you've got parcels closer to Valandraud, and I know that you've got parcels closer to Pavie. You've got in different places, so I'm asking for you.
On the plateau, on the areas like Rocheron, Echer, and Pémouton, we've been okay. Just one night on the night of Tuesday to Wednesday, we light candles. So that to warm up a little bit high the temperature. And the worst was in Le Château area, in Saint-Sulpice, which is quite close from the river. It's gravelly and clay in that place. It's super terroir with blue clay, just fantastic. But there, during few nights, we had -3, -4. So we really had to increase the temperature with candles. So we've been hit a little bit, but that's okay. And down the slopes of Pavie, well, the first night was a little bit tricky, but by keeping it warm with candles, we've been okay in that places too. So, but without anything, without doing nothing, we could have been strongly touched. So that's fine.
Could you, before we discuss your wines, could you, for people, explain exactly what a candle is, because they're not exactly candles, but maybe you can walk people through it.
Well, in fact, there is different ways to fight frost. The idea is to warm up the cool air with hot air. So you can use a hair spray, winder machine. And we light candles. So it's not candle for cake. It's a big pot of paraffin that we light on in order to increase the temperature of 2 degrees Celsius. So I don't know how many Fahrenheit is that, but the idea is to be above 32 Fahrenheit.
It's
or to try to keep the 2.
Yeah, 2 brings you above freezing. So when you light the candle, how much heat does that generate, so people know?
It really depends how many you put in 1 hectare. We used to say that to try to keep warmer on 1 degrees, 2 degrees Celsius, you need to have at least 200 candles per hectare. So that's quite a lot. So beside that, we had some machines that push out hot air. It works with gas. So you turn the gas, and then you have kind of an engine. You need to start on the engine, and then it sprays hot air at hundreds plus Celsius. But after that, you need also to have candles so that to try to have to surrounding those machines and heat up a little bit more. So with 200s, I would say you can keep the temperature above -1, but if it decreases to -3, -4, you need to have more candles.
Okay. And what is the cost of a candle?
It's very expensive. It depends when you buy those candles. It could be from €8 a piece, but you need to buy that before the season. And if you're in the middle of the season, it could go higher than that. But the thing is that this year, not only the vineyards have to buy that, but also all the agriculture products.
Okay. So in other words, the life of a winemaker isn't just entertaining your friends, letting the grapes grow, and drinking all day long.
Almost that.
Okay. Before we talk, as I know about these, but I don't, when I'm in Bordeaux, I don't open my own bottles, but here I open yours. I think you start them in 2016. When do you start using these plastic corks?
2015. 2015, yeah.
So can you tell me what gave you the idea to use the Ardius seals?
In fact, since many years, we found even in our bottles at Croix de Labrie that we could have some troubles in tasting aromas or cork damage in the bottle. So it was in 2014, we were with Axel in Paris having a wine tasting with different producers and journalists. And it was a blind tasting session for which we didn't know why we were there. So there was no thema that we were aware. So we had different flights of red wines, white dries, white sweets, and reds from Bordeaux, from Burgundy, from Rhone Valley, Italy, Spain, and Napa Valley. And it was 2 flights with 2 glasses, and we were tasting each once. And the question was, which wine do you like? And please write down which one and why. And at the end of the tasting session, almost 98% of the people were liking the same wines, exactly the same. And the expression was, well, this one is much fruity, ripe, fresh, etc., etc. And at the end, we said, okay, what was the difference between that one and that one? And the guy said, you tasted exactly the same wine, the same estate, the same vintage, bottled the same day. The only difference was one was with Ardius seal stopper, and the other one was used with the cork that was used at the estate. At Croix de Labrie, we were used to have a natural cork with double mirror, very high first cork quality for years, since the beginning, and you know that at Croix de Labrie. But we've been more and more a little bit disappointed with Axel by tasting some wines where it was not really corked, but a little bit tainted. And it could be very sad effect, very bad effect for the customers who open a bottle. Even if most of the customers, I assume, don't know really what is the difference between a wine which could be tainted and a fresh wine, a wine which is perfect. But he could keep in mind maybe that, well, the wine is not really nice, so I prefer to have something else. And Laurent Ponceau in Burgundy, who is quite one of the very famous producer in Burgundy, used those corks since 2008. So we've been in touch with him. Also Clos-Manoux in the Médoc area in Bordeaux. They use those corks since 2004. So we discussed with them, we had some blind tasting, and we went deeper in that. And at the end of the day, we decided with Axel, okay, there is no doubt about that, because the exchange of oxygen is almost the same that a natural cork without having any trouble effect. That means that with those cork, now we can say we can guarantee 100% of the wines will be good, for our opinion, of course, but you will never have a trouble because of the cork, which can damage 3 years of work by just like this. So that's why we decide to use those cork, and they have the potential to keep for years without any trouble. So that's very interesting.
So well, we've got a question here, and then I actually have a few for you. We have a question. Somebody wants to know, do you find with the exchange of air and ability to create ullage at some point, do you find these have any different aging curves?
At the first years, we saw that because we kept some bottles in our cellar of 2015 with natural cork, and of course with RDRC cork. We did the tasting. It was in November to compare the evolution in between one and the other. In the first year, I would say there is no big difference, really. But now we saw that the RDRC cork, the wine are really much more fresh. We still keep more fruitiness compared to with the natural cork, definitely.
As an experiment, are you aging in the Ardia seals and with cork and saving some of each?
Yes.
Maybe next time I come, if you're okay with it,
yeah, we take that.
Yeah, we can do a blind tasting, and Camille can switch the bottles around, so we don't know what you don't know, I don't know. So my favorite thing to do, of course, with you is taste wine. But we've got another. We answered the frost question already, but maybe at the end we can go back to it. But basically, what he said was for his property, he doesn't know yet, but where he is, it's minor. You don't. I know you don't use. Although you could answer it. There is no glue used in the Ardia seal corks.
No,
they seal just like a regular cork. You'll open it, you'll pull back the foil at the top, and notice, oh, will my regular cork screw go through it? And yes, it will. They open really easy, and in fact, actually, they're a little bit easier to open than DMs or natural cork.
Absolutely.
I would like to ask you, because I don't know, I was tasting your wine before you purchased the property from the Puzio family. I would taste it at, I would see him in the village at his wine store, and I tasted it with Jean-Luc Tunevan. But can you tell me, what is the year that you decided to buy the property?
We decided to buy the property. It was in 2013.
2013?
2013, yeah.
And what were you looking for a vineyard at that time already?
Yeah, we were with Axel. In fact, as you know, we met in 1994 with Axel, so some years ago. We met in Seattle, actually. Axel was working at the Columbia Winery, but at that time, the Columbia Winery was quite tiny compared to what is it actually, which is now a huge, very, very big company. And when we fly back to France in the 90s, Axel was looking to find a work, a position in a vineyard or in a cellar in Bordeaux. But in the 90s, it was not easy for a woman, especially when you are not from a family of winemaker, to establish by yourself. So she went back to her father company, and I went to the Bordeaux side. And at the end of the 2000, we were looking to go back on what we were looking to do, make wine. And we were first looking to find a vineyard on the left bank, because there is some beautiful terroir. But the problematic for us, we were looking for a human scale vineyard, because we're only two at Croix de Labrie, Axel and I. And in the Médoc side, you need at least to get 15 hectares to make something and a living on that. But we were looking more terroir profile, and so that's why we would turn on the right bank, Saint-Emilion. And we had the chance to meet Michel Pujol, and he was looking to sell his vineyard. So we start with him, and we knew Croix de Labrie before, also of the history, the origin of the garagist wine. I mean, it was the first one with Valandraud, first vintage in 1991. The first two garagistes were Jean-Luc and Michel Pujol. They start exactly in the same vintage and exactly in the same area of vineyard. So we find the story and the background of that was very interesting. And Axel and I decide to keep the same philosophy of working like the garagist wines, except we turn on maybe more deeper on the terroir side, as much more approach on the Burgundy style compared to what it was before, definitely.
But if you tell me you're looking for a property that was 15 hectares, I think this, when you bought it, isn't it like 2 hectares of vines? It's a little smaller.
Well, it was smaller. Why? 15 hectares.
It, but in I think in 13, it's like 2 hectares of vines, right?
Right.
Yeah. And today you're 6 about?
Almost 5.94.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And I know, before we taste your wine, you've got parcels in which it's quite common, really all over Bordeaux. There are some vineyards that are in one large block of vines, but not as many. More people have different vines in different parts of the appellation. So I know that you have parcels on the Limestone Plateau, not so far from Chateau Pavie. I know that you also have vines a little bit further east that are closer to Valandraud, closer to your chateau.
Yeah. In fact, we have almost 3 hectares on the plateau, on Astéries limestones and clay. The areas called Rocheron, Écher, and Pémouton. And then we have a little bit less than 1 hectare down the slopes of Pavie, which is much more sandy limestone, clay, and iron green. And we have an hectare and a half on Le Château area in the Saint-Sulpice district, which is clay, blue clay, and gravels.
Where do you, because you have a moderate amount of, maybe we'll just talk one little thing about your vineyard, and then we can maybe taste some wine, which is a lot more fun. Can you tell me, you guys have a pretty good amount in Saint-Emilion of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
Where do you have that, first of all?
Alors, there is two places where we have Cabernet Sauvignon at Croix de Labrie. The first one is down the slopes of Pavie, where we have 16 rows of Cabernet Sauvignon, on which we are actually doing a massal selection, because we have a few vine trees of 100 years old and more, and we find some ungrafted roots also, 20 vine trees exactly. And we have another Cabernet Sauvignon plot on the plateau, which is quite surprising because it's 37 acres. So it's acres, acre in French, but not acres in US, of course.
Hectares.
So, yeah. So that's a third of 1 hectare, I would say, which is a complantation. So that means in that in that block, there is a mix of Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon. And the ripening season is happening on the same time than the Merlot.
But they like very different conditions.
Very much.
And different amounts of water. They're not friends.
They are not friends at all.
No.
But, and they are on clay and Asteris limestone. When Axel is pruning the vineyard, she prunes this block quite late. But both Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon are pruned exactly on the same date. But we saw when the season is starting, the Merlot comes first, and then the Cabernet Sauvignon comes just later, 2-3 weeks later. The flowering is a little bit different, but then the ripening season, the maturation of the grape is exactly the same. It's like Marcel Dice in Alsace. Is a big impact on complantation, and we see in that block particularly that the Merlot and the Cabernet Sauvignon are ripening exactly on the same time.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, we have Cabernet Sauvignon in Croix de Labrie, and also we have few Cabernet Franc since a few years now.
Okay, and right now the encépagement of your vineyard is mostly it's 80% Merlot, about 12% Cab Sauv, and about 8 Cab Franc. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Do you see any changes in that?
Alors, we see an increase on proportion. Proportion at Croix de Labrie, it's a big word because everything is small in our estate. But we saw since few years we have increased. We are starting to increase. The proportion on Cab Franc. Remember, Croix de Labrie was almost 100% pure Merlot. We add the Cabernet Sauvignon because we think that the Cabernet Sauvignon in Croix de Labrie is something fantastic, and Cab Sauvignon is, when it's ripe, it's wonderful. But we still have Cabernet Franc that maybe it was a little bit challenging for us, for Axel and I, to have a better understanding on how making ripe and how to prune it, etc. And I think with the help of Hubert, we have starting to have a better understanding on the Cabernet Franc, and we have seen, like, for instance, in 2020, we have added quite a high proportion, 5%, so it's not high, but for us it's high. We blend it definitely in the final blend.
All right. I had a little plane passing overhead. I think when I can, I like to bring you into my garden because it's a nice place to sit. It's a good place to sit. If anybody before at any point's got any questions, now is a good time. So let me ask you one last thing before we taste wine. I also know you're although it's increasing in number in the right bank, you're one of the few people that is producing white wine.
Yeah, we have a short production, it's really 6 barrels production only on white, which is really fun to produce. We rent a farming place where we have a complantation of quite a lot of grapes from Bordeaux, so that's quite interesting to produce.
And you know, I got it. I don't have your white wine. Is there a reason? I could not find it. I looked in the box everywhere.
It's on its way, but I think it has been delayed for 10 days. I don't know why.
So, but we have to look on my site because I'm not sure. I think I would, if it's okay with you, I would like to get 18, 19, and 20 white.
I can do that.
Okay. I've got all your, okay. So let me answer somebody's questions. Well, roughly in an average year here, they're doing, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, average yields are usually about 30 hectares, 30 hectoliters per hectare.
No, it's a dream. for us, it's a dream. The yield, it's almost 25, 7 hectoliters per hectare.
Okay, and so that, in bottles, that's not so good. So that's giving them roughly 250, 270 cases per hectare. And,
a little bit less.
Okay, 30 is the dream. Okay. I know in recent years it would be 25, 27, but good vintage is 15, 16. You're not getting 30 out of that?
On 16, we had 30.
Yeah.
Or 30, 32.
Okay, d'accord. We've got Life Around the Bases, I think the name. He thinks your whites are interesting. So do I, although I guess I'll be able to say how interesting in a couple of weeks when we send them. Now, we have 4 vintages here. I'm wondering if you want to go from, and it's a good thing to have these because they show difference in vintages and differences in goals. Would you like to go from 15?
I think it's better to go from 15 up to 2018. What do you think?
Okay.
Allez, super.
I am happy to do it because it's a beautiful day, and who doesn't want to start their day off with a lovely bottle of Saint-Emilion? And
well,
you know,
start your day. We are almost finished.
Feel free. This is an open conversation. Ask anything, not only, you know, of them, of me, about their wines, the wine life. It's a beautiful little property. You see it right off, pretty much right off the road. They're always out. Oh, Axel's always out in front working. Pierre is cutting deals. His hands are not so dirty.
Absolutely right. Except this year because I have to stay in the cellar this year.
A little spicier. I tasted it earlier and wrote a tasting note before we got on the phone. A little spicier.
Well, 2015, it was almost 100% Merlot. We had 2 barrels of Cabernet Sauvignon inside. And 15 was quite very sunny vintage, if you remember. Quite deep.
The style of these, for me, it ages well, but they're good early drinking wines. They're very lush. They're very rich. They're very pleasing wines. They're food friendly, but they're not they're complex wines, but they're not complicated to drink. You can enjoy them young. And for me, 15, 20 years.
I agree. I think that's also the style maybe from Croix de Labrie. It's a wine that could be enjoyed during the first decade, but also had the capacity to go longer than that.
Absolutely.
We had 96 of Michel, and with Michel 2 months ago. It was still very young. Very interesting.
So I could answer it, but I think you're going to give a better answer than I would. So Elliot, I would tell you yes, simply. It's not a matter, you can, but Pierre's going to give you the longer answer. But for me, you can always make a good wine in a difficult vintage. The issue is never a good wine. The issue is how much wine you can produce. So Pierre, maybe you can explain how you can produce a good wine in a difficult year.
I would say nowadays, I think with the techniques that we have in enology, it's easier to produce a nice wine when a vintage is a little bit tricky and difficult. Even that, I would say the key matter is at least the terroir. The terroir could make a big difference. And usually when you have a beautiful terroir, they have the capacity to help you on difficult vintages. But thanks to the techniques, we are now much more strict, and we have the techniques to have a better sorting when you harvest. We have technique to just keep the perfect grapes. And because of that, you need to accept to decrease the production at the end. Of course, if you want to keep the same numbers of production, then it will be tricky because you will need to accept different ripeness on the grapes that you have harvested. But if you focus only on the quality, then after it's easier. If I look like 2013 or even 2017 that we are going to taste after, 2017 was the year of the frost in France, and not only in France, it was in Europe generally speaking. So it was a very big disaster for wine producers. But then for those who had the potential to produce wine, then after we had to be very strict on the sorting. And after that, on the winemaking, so that to keep the fruitiness on the wine. So I think today, compared to 20 years or 30 years ago, it's easier to produce good wines. And don't forget, the global warming is here today. And I think but the weather, thanks to the increase of temperature, the ripening season is less challenging compared to what it was in 93 or 92 vintage. But we have other problematics which is happening today, occurring, like the frost, a hailstorm can be happening, etc., etc. So I think with all the techniques, I would say now we can have a better control on the quality.
Oh, cool. Let's try 16, and maybe we have another question. I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer. He wants to know the most difficult year you have ever had, knowing you started in 2013.
Because 2013 was our number one, I would say, that we 100% produce. I would say 2013.
Yeah, absolutely. That must have been, I know you have the same saying I've been taught in French, baptism by fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
2013 was, we did, the production of 2013 was just 4 barrels.
Yeah, that will make you cry. And your bankers.
The banker was not really happy, but that's okay. Now it's better.
So 16 is a very different wine, very different style, more structured, while I find 15 a charmer to have on the dinner table tonight. I would like to go back to 16 in about 3 or 4 years. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, 16 is still very young. I think it's... for my opinion, I prefer 16 compared to the 15 because in the 16s, we have, I think, better acidities, I would say, which make the wines a capacity for aging, which is going to be tremendous. Much more balanced. 15 is like 2009, you know, we had a dry and hot season summer, so that maybe the Merlot were a little bit ripe and strong. And then in the 16, we had some few rains just before the harvest, which has really helped to have a nice freshness into the wines. So indeed, I agree with you. 16 is a little bit young now, but definitely has a potential for 20 more years easily.
Cool. Shall we move to 17?
17, ouais. Super. That's my favorite.
Yeah? How come?
You know, 17, if we put out the frost, which occur end of April compared to what we have this year, then after the growing season was really nice. And we saw that on the plateau, because at the first step that we have increased the size of the vineyard on the plateau, so you have the impact of the Asteris limestone terroir by the 17 vintage. But on the plateau, we didn't face frost. And we saw that we don't have the density of the 2016 vintage on the palate, indeed. But the Merlot, we had a beautiful freshness and acidities on the fruits, which brings a nice length to the wine, which we love with Axel. We love the wines when you have this capacity to bring the length very long. And I think we have that on the 17. And beside that, I think it's a vintage that you can start to enjoy now, even if it is very young. But if you decanter it for 2 or 3 hours, but we will have the potential to keep also for years, but with a different design.
From these vintages here, 15, 16, 17, 18, have you changed your barrel aging program at all?
No. In fact, what we saw in the coming vintages, we saw the impact of the 100% organic and the biodynamic, definitely. What we have changing on the process of winemaking process, we've been much more strict on the sorting, much more on details. And then during fermentation, no, we didn't change anything. We still are doing our aging in barrels, the same barrels, except the selection of the barrels are much more on fine grain, coming only from Tronchet and Allier Forest. But we keep the wines longer on the lees. That means that full lees, we keep the wines for at least 6 months or 9 months on the lees.
And when have you done that for all of these vintages?
We started it with the 2016.
And same amount of new oak also through this period,
yeah. Right? 100% new barrels every year. But on 2018, which one you taste, Jeff?
Well, I've got 17 here, and I'm going to move to the 18 now.
17, it was almost 100% pure Merlot. Because the Cabernet Sauvignon, due to the frost, were not ripe enough that we didn't blend it, except half a barrel that we blend directly into the Merlot during fermentation.
So it's more, the assemblage is closer to 15.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
D'accord. Okay. And we're going to move to, if it's okay with you, 2018.
Right.
I have a little love in my glass right now.
It's fantastic.
Can you, while I'm enjoying this, we have a question, wants to know your assemblage for the white wine.
The assemblage, it's 60% Sémillon, 20% Sauvignon Blanc, and 20% Sauvignon Gris. But it's a complantation, so in fact, it's a mix of everything. But the high proportion is on Sémillon.
Yeah. I'm really feeling the love here in this 18. I could clearly see what's on my dinner table tonight. You know, a little bit more for me, fuller, rounder, more gentle, a little sexier, a little more luscious.
Definitely. And now we see the start of the result of what Axel has done for years into the vineyard. And now we are just starting to see just the first results. So that means the potential that we have on the back of that is just amazing. It's like pushing, and then after we just need to control so that to really keep the pure expression of this amazing terroir on the plateau. Definitely, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I really like how this 18 is filled. I like the balance. I like the harmony. I like the character. I like the ripeness. It's kind of like a stepping stone for what I just tasted with your 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Even a little tiny bit better, too, than this. It's a little bit more of a step up. I'm really liking that I can. It's fun tasting for me the same wines every year because I can see, oh, it just got a little bit better. They figured this out, and the vines are a little older, and they know the vines a little bit better. If anybody has any questions, now's a good time because we're going to wrap this up in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's a busy day, and I've got things to do. So
you need to have lunch.
No, it's still too early for lunch. Hercules wants a day out. It's my only day off this week, so I'm actually going to run some errands and, take care of business. But it's always enjoyable. I feel like I've been in Bordeaux every day this week.
Yeah.
I was actually in Saint-Emilion yesterday at Bordeaux with Helene and Patrice, so that was nice. And then throughout, where else have I done? Well, I'm back in Bordeaux tomorrow at Angelus, but I've been to this week. I've been to Pauillac, twice. I've been back to with Lafitte, with Pichon. I've been to Fontplegaud. I've been to Pomerol with Elise Clinet. I've been to Chateau Margaux. I was in Pessac-Léognan at Le Carme, and also Saint-Julien with De Cruz. So,
what do you think on 2020, Jeff?
Repeat, s'il vous plaît.
What do you think on the vintage 2020?
Well, your wine I like a lot.
No, generally.
Generally, I like the wine a lot. It's so far I don't know. Tomorrow we'll well cross 300 samples, but I haven't had. I like the vintage. Some producers will make better wine in 20 than 18 or 19. Some producers made better wine in 19 and 18. Stylistically, I really like it. So it's more, it's terroir by terroir and vineyard by vineyard. It's not, some vintages are even or uneven everywhere. Only for me, 2020 is not the case. 2020 is really terroir by terroir. You've got some difficult summer conditions, and some terroirs handle that and help the grower better than others. Other terroirs made it much more difficult to get complete ripeness in grapes, skins, and seeds.
It was not an easy vintage, and we see with the global warming, I mean, the seasons are getting more and more difficult. But so far on the plateau with the clay and the limestone, it's helping very much, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Is Axel and Camille around, or are they off?
Give me 1 second.
Okay, let's say hi to the family, and then we're yes. For those of you that are hanging around the next couple of minutes, he has a beautiful, beautiful little daughter. I've known her since she was a little child. Always seeing her in the tasting room, and you know, for me, that's the best part of going to the wine country. It's not, I can taste wines at home, as you can see. But it's getting to know the people that make the wine that counts.
Axel is coming, and Camille, she's in the garden playing with some things, focusing on I don't know what.
All right.
She's here. Look at her.
Hello.
Bonjour, Axel, ça va?
Hello, Jeff.
Everybody.
How's the family?
How are you?
Fine.
Super.
Super bien.
How can I not? I'm surrounded with you. I've got, well, and including the 2020, I've got 5 vintages of Croix de Labrie. And, of course, I'm happy. Life is good. I'm hoping to see you guys next year.
Yeah, we hope to.
For sure.
Hi, Philippe. He's from Germany. Philippe Amarone.
Well, we've got that. We've got my favorite friend from up near San Francisco. She's with us. We've got friends
from Japan,
Sweden. So it's nice to do these, you know.
Great. Really beautiful.
Yeah. So you guys, have you been vaccinated?
To the US?
No, vaccinated. Have you been? Have you got?
I got my first shot last week, and Axel gonna have the first shot
Next month.
next month.
Why Axel should have had it before you for other
No,
reasons.
because of a treatment.
Yeah, I have to
Okay.
wait.
I thought before. So yeah, I've got my first. I get my second on Thursday night. The secret, I didn't cancel a big Zoom tasting with a first growth on Friday. I hope I'm alive and well.
You will.
So you okay?
We'll find out. I got to suck it up for 1 hour. 1 hour. That's all I got to do, and then I'll be fine. And then I'm going to take the next 3 days off. But you know, the last time I saw you would be in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, we remember. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you guys, really, thank you for spending the time with me. Thank you to everybody for watching. Yeah, I might be able to soon, unless I get an invite to San Francisco. It's pretty unlikely I'm going to be traveling, though. I'm actually enjoying sitting in my garden and hanging out. And, you know, I got to say, I'll still do these lives. They're fun. I'm going to do a lot more of them probably after the on premiere season. So June-ish, July-ish, I've already got a bunch of wines and a bunch of commitments from people. So, you know, we're going to do a lot more of these, and your guys' participation and asking questions and just viewing makes it worthwhile.
It's a really great idea.
Do not forget to send me my white wine. And Camille, I don't ever see her wine. Camille, your daddy's not sending me your wine.
you see the wines when you come in Bordeaux.
I'm a little busy when I come to Bordeaux.
Okay, so I will send it to you.
It's a little easier, you know. The recent, because Camille, your wine is the best of them. How can I not taste yours?
Thank you.
You know, the first time I met you, you were a little girl and you were wearing a doctor's uniform and you were giving me little shots. and you had your stethoscope on. Oh, we got somebody here around the bases. He says Camille's wine is terrific. Yeah.
We are doing the same size.
Yeah, she's taller than Axel now.
She's only 30.
Oh, my. You know. So you guys don't drink all the wine. I'm going to be there. And hopefully
we keep you some
here. And, of course, if I don't get invites to San Francisco, they can always come down here. I got like, Pierre, I wish I could take this phone. Well, actually could. You would not believe the amount of wine that is here. And all of Michel Rolland's wines started arriving Friday. I got half the next 20 cases come Monday. Yeah, I got about.
We saw some pictures of your door with your dog.
Yeah, he's starting. So we got hundreds of bottles. So, you know, it's stacking up. But I've got a really good crew to help me.
That's great.
I could not do it without them. So, thank you very much for this. I'm logging off, and I hope to see you soon, and I hope to see some white wine soon. And Camille's. Camille, I don't want to taste your wine anymore, right, Camille? Yeah. All right, you guys. See you later.
Thank you. All the best to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.